Are you looking for tips to throw better cocktail parties in your home? Well, if so, you're in luck because we're gonna get really in depth with that on today's episode. Welcome to Cocktail Limelight. I'm your host, Erick Castro, and joining me today, again, is Andrew Gallardi, co-founder of Progressive Pours, a cocktail catering company. Andrew, welcome.
Thanks for having me back. I'm glad to be here.
My friend, I'm glad to have you because I know a lot of people, they love to entertain the house. They love to bring people over, have guests, and dazzle them with impressive cocktails. And you know, back in the day, you could, I guess, leave a cooler out with like wine coolers and stuff and people would be impressed. But nowadays, people are looking for something a little extra. They're looking for a little more pizzazz in their drinks. And as you know, anybody who's worked in a proper cocktail bar before or had people over know that a lot of these drinks are intimidating. It seems like it can be overwhelming and throwing a party is already stressful enough. So I'm glad that you're here to offer some advice. And I was gonna, I guess, go through some points and ask some bits of advice because I know you could really lend some insight into this. So I guess first things first, you know, you put together a list for me of things that you want to cover and I'm gonna go ahead and try to run through those. The first thing that you mentioned that I was really impressed with is that they actually don't have to go to the store and pick up all this booze themselves. By that, what do you mean?
Yes, booze can be delivered nowadays. We're living in the future. I mean, you get everything brought to your door, so why not include your booze? Costco, Bevmo, Drizzly, just to name off a few.
They all deliver?
They all deliver right to your home. Just go on, check as many as you want. As long as there's an adult there above 21 to accept the delivery, you're in the clear.
How about if you just don't act like an adult? Does that count?
Honestly, if your ID says you're over 21, you can act however you want. I'm sure you can wear a diaper.
I'm a baby, I have no money.
Whatever floats your boat, my friend, as long as you got valid ID. Lately, I've been using some of these delivery apps, and I gotta admit, I like how big the selection is because normally you go to one liquor store, if they don't have a bottle, they just don't have the bottle. But you know, with some of these apps, they're pulling from all of their different stores, so it's like they never tell you that something's out, for the most part, you know, unless you're trying to order some really rare, you know, liqueur or spirits, what have you.
That's very true, and certain stores only carry certain brands. So let's say you live in Point Loma like I do, the Bevmo there will be different than the Bevmo in El Cajon.
Whoa.
They all carry different spirits, so same with Costco or the big name brands. So definitely going online gets you access to everything.
It's just wild to me how easy it's become to get some of this stuff delivered, which is great because again, you know, you're having guests over, you're putting together food, you're organizing the cocktails. It's just one less errand to run, which I think is great. Have the booze delivered makes it that much easier. The next thing I wanted to ask you is about pars, and by that I mean like quantity. Say you're inviting, let's just say a round number, you know, 10 people to your house party. How do you factor in how much booze you're gonna buy? How much ice you need? What are some bits of advice that you would offer in those regards?
Sure thing. Basic rule of thumb, you could expect your guests to enjoy 3 to 4 drinks over a 4-hour party. About
drink an hour?
An hour, precisely. If your friends are younger and like to get after it, you might need to up those pars.
And vice versa, you know, if they're a little more of a mellow crowd, you can actually probably round that down a bit as well.
You sure can. You sure can. And it always helps to have more selection, meaning don't just have vodka, tequila, and whiskey, and maybe a beer or a wine to choose from as well.
One of the bits of advice you mentioned I think is genius, and that's to have a cocktail menu. You know, narrow it down to, you know, 3, 4, maybe 5 cocktails that you are kind of navigating them to order. And when you're putting together one of these menus, I guess, what do you have in mind? Are you just trying to have a variety, like one sparkling cocktail, one Collins Riff, one stirred cocktail? Elaborate.
Yes, having a cocktail menu helps incredibly. I don't suggest more than 5 cocktails. Your menu will become a novel and your guests will have information overload. They won't know what to choose, and things just become more complicated for no reason. I definitely recommend having different styles of cocktails, at least one stirred cocktail. These are gonna be your old fashions, your Manhattans, your very spirit-forward cocktails for the ladies and gentlemen that like to get after it and get it handled quick. To solve and take care of the majority of people, which will be your refreshing cocktails. Anything tiki,
Moscow Mule, Mai
Mule.
Tais, things like that.
Precisely, things with soda water, things with citrus, things with sugars. These are the ones that you could have a couple and not feel so.
Yeah, because they take you a little longer to drink. You know, like a drink served long, you're just not gonna be able to pound it as fast, which is good, especially if you're pacing people. You know what I mean? And then from your experience, have you noticed, you know, the rule of old fashions, where if something's called a blah 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 old fashioned, it's gonna sell?
Most
Or
definitely.
by sell, I mean it's gonna move.
It helps to have something in the name that people can relate to.
Okay.
People know what an old fashioned is. If you were to just call it a Oaxaca, people would say, "What is this? I'm confused," and I can't even say it.
But if it says Oaxacan old fashioned, like, oh,
At least you're giving them a clue, so they'll be like, "Oh, okay,
With the
it's an
fan.
old fashioned."
And I really like that you're mentioning, you know, picking and curating a careful list of cocktails, because otherwise, if there isn't a menu, people will just be ordering all over the gamut, and you're just gonna be telling people no all night, like, oh, can't make that, don't have cherry here. Nope, sorry, I don't have yellow chartreuse, I can't make that. But instead, by narrowing it down, you're putting them on the path that you want them to take, which makes it easier for whoever happens to be making the drinks. Next, I also wanted to mention something that I also thought was genius, and that's that you said you like to choose flexible builds in your cocktail. And what do you mean by that?
Yes, what I mean by a flexible build is a drink where you can interchange the spirit and it'll still come out delicious.
Okay.
Even if you have a drink that's tastes amazing and you love it and it's with tequila, unfortunately a lot of people are gonna be, I don't know, I don't really like tequila, I'm not gonna order this drink. Well, hey, we can make it with gin, we can make it with vodka, or would you like this one with rum? This gives people the opportunity to customize their order. They're more comfortable drinking it because they know it's a spirit they enjoy. And you're not buying more ingredients to make more cocktails. You just have 4 different spirits to go along with this one cocktail.
Yeah, like if you had a Moscow Mule on the menu, you just change the spirit, and then now you have a bourbon buck or a rum buck or a dark and stormy. There's different permutations that you can make out of that drink, even though it's just from those core ingredients.
Exactly. And it makes you look cooler.
Now, this next thing that I wanted to ask about is something that I feel is really important, but it seems like a lot of people take for granted and end up dropping the ball on it. And that's about ice. How much ice do people really need for, you know, I guess for a cocktail party?
Sure thing. A standard rate for ice, you'd want about 1 pound of ice per person for every hour.
Okay, that makes sense. That's easy to calculate too.
And do take an effect, if it's a summer month and it's super hot outside, you're gonna wanna at least double that.
Yeah, if it's like an outdoor cookout or something.
And if you can, have your ice well be an actual cooler, something that's insulated. I see so often folks throwing their ice into a galvanized bin, just a metal bucket. You're gonna melt that ice in 30 minutes and you're gonna say, they lied to me.
Yeah.
You need more than 1 pound per person.
No, I've done events, you know, outdoors where we just have the ice like in a bus tub or something, and the ice is just constantly melting, like every half hour, like the bottom 2 inches is just water, you gotta keep draining it out.
Exactly, or you'll scoop your ice and you're just scooping a bunch of water and that's gonna ruin your drink.
Yeah, definitely, it will really ruin your drinks, and I'm glad that that's something that you pointed out. Another thing I wanted to ask you about is glassware. Do you recommend people renting it, you know, using like compostable cups? From your experience, what's easiest for people?
In my experience, what's easiest is definitely using disposable cups. Glassware, I can't lie.
Disposable or recyclable?
I'll get into that.
Okay, let's hear it. Let's hear your perspective, my friend.
Glassware, I can't lie, it looks a lot better.
It always looks better.
Your pictures will be better next to a plastic cup. But that's about it, I think. Your drink will taste the same. With glassware though, you're risking of shatter. Yeah. You're in your backyard, there's gonna be some asphalt somewhere, or even if it's in the grass, that's even scarier place for glass to break. You don't want anyone cutting their foot. If it's near a dance floor.
You want them cutting a rug, not cutting their foot.
Cut the rugs only, guys.
So it really is about safety to a certain extent.
Exactly. Also with glassware, you're gonna need a busser. Someone's gonna have to pick up all these expired cups and either bring them to the kitchen or bring them to a dirty receptacle bin. When you have disposable cups, those go right into the trash.
Or the recycle bin.
So let's talk about that.
Okay, talk to you. Because obviously
Ice.
people don't want to be, you know, just using single-use plastic anymore. For
Exactly.
obvious reasons.
I've done many big events and even if there is a recycle bin, somehow trash will end up in that recycle bin or the recyclables will end up in the trash. And when I'm throwing the trash away at night, it hurts. I feel bad. I'm like not doing my part. So I do suggest folks use biodegradable cups that are made from plants, even down to the straws. Use paper straws. Ones that I really like are made out of corn. They don't fall apart once it hits your drink. I just found out regular BPA plastic cups can last 450 years in a landfill.
Whoa.
Where a cup made out of plants, 2 years, and it's gone.
Yeah.
Even if it doesn't make it to the recycle bin, it'll still be gone in 2 years. So
I'm a little surprised. You kind of took me for a loop, but you brought us back to a good place. So I appreciate that, because I do think that that's something important for people to have front of mind and to be conscious of. And even if it costs a little bit more, really I think it's just a few pennies per cup or something. But it just gives you that peace of mind of knowing that you're reducing your footprint, which I respect. And I know you had one last point to touch on, but I want to chime in really quick, and that's to be sure to chill any ingredients that need to be chilled. I know that sounded kind of silly and almost kind of like too obvious, but it's important that if you're gonna be serving Moscow mules, make sure your ginger beer is chilled. If you're gonna be using club soda as a topper, make sure that that is also chilled. Like your beers, anything that needs to be cold, that should be on ice or in the fridge hours before the event. We've all been to an outdoor cookout or something, and you reach in to the fridge, you grab a beer, and it's like room temp. It's just, yeah.
It ruins it.
It's a buzzkill. It's a buzzkill. But anyway, brother, you had one more point. Let's hear it.
Yes, if any of this becomes too complicated or just gets out of hand, remember there's always bartending services that you can hire that can take care of essentially all of these details. If you have any questions, and let's say you're not in my area, which is Southern California, you can still reach out at progressivepours.com. Send me an email. I'll definitely answer your questions and help you throw the best party possible.
That's good advice. I think that could be helpful, because it's really easy to get overwhelmed when you're doing this sort of thing. But I know earlier you mentioned something about having drinks and recipes that are easy to change a spirit and still have them be delicious. Did you want to show us an example of one?
Sure do. Let's do a variation of a Collins, typically with lemon juice, simple syrup, and a spirit. Again, whiskey, gin, vodka, rum, tequila, all these are great with this mezcal. What we're gonna variation on is adding grapefruit juice.
Like a grapefruit Collins.
Give it a nice tart.
The grapefruit
finish
Collins
to that.
works with pretty much any spirit you can think of.
Oh yes. And grapefruit.
I like it with white rum. I like it with tequila. It kind of almost tastes like a little bit of a Paloma-esque, if you will. But it works with just about any spirit you can think of. Let's make one.
Cool. We'll start with 3/4 of an ounce lemon juice. 3/4 ounce grapefruit juice.
Fresh squeeze, of course, folks.
You can get about 5 ounces of juice out of a grapefruit too. So one grapefruit gets you potentially 4, 5+ cocktails. Next we have 3/4 of an ounce of simple syrup.
And this just regular 1-to-1 simple syrup?
1-to-1.
Yeah.
Last thing, we'll finish that off with our spirit. Today, we'll be using Tanqueray gin.
Some tasty gin, my friend.
Yes, sir.
So 2 ounces of that. Okay, so what's next, my friend?
Oh, the good old ice. Let's top this up. Fill it up if you can. Get a good seal on that. Whenever using soda water, I like to short shake my cocktails. This is adding essentially water, more dilution. So by not excessively shaking your drinks, it holds that flavor much better in the end.
You're getting more of the water content from the carbonation rather than just from melted ice.
Precisely.
Love it. It's a great piece of actionable advice. I dig it. And the drink's almost done. My friend, what's the garnish?
Today we'll be using a lemon wedge. If you have a peeler, definitely recommend using the skin as the oil to get those aromas going, but this works perfect.
Now let me allow this cocktail to have its day in court. Yo, that's crazy good. That's really good. And then this works with just about any spirit you can think of, right?
Yes. Or if you have a grapefruit slice at home, another great garnish for this drink.
All right, well, man, you gave us a lot of good information to kind of soak in. You gave us a cocktail recipe. Man, you've been too generous with your time. Andrew, if anybody want to reach out to you, had questions for you, what's the best place for them to get in contact with you?
Best place to get in contact with me is my website, progressivepours.com. There's a contact page in there. You can send me your info and I'll reach out to you.
And that wraps up today's episode. But if any of you out there want to dive deeper into the world of craft cocktails with us, be sure to check out the Bartender at Large podcast, which I host over on iTunes, Spotify, and anywhere else where quality podcasts are found. And with that said, if any of you out there have any suggestions for cocktails that you'd like us to tackle on a future episode, then leave it down in the comments below. And who knows, maybe it'll end up on a future episode of the show. And with that said, thank you so much for tuning in, and we will see you again next week.